Gentlemen, welcome to the 208 and fantasy football fans. Glad you're hanging out with us. Still got that voice from coaching football. It's coming back around, but we got plenty of news to talk about. A little bit of tight end rankings for you. And most importantly, why bacon must be cooked crispy. It's not okay to have soggy bacon. Let's get started right now. Chance, Justin, how we doing? How's everything going today?
Good. Been a good weekend.
Yes, sir. I heard some really good news from your camp.
Yes, I am no longer pre-engaged. I am actually engaged.
Yeah. Congrats, my friend. Congrats.
I proposed to my beautiful girlfriend this weekend, and she said yes. So I'm pretty excited to spend our life together.
And she likes a real football team too, by the way, so it's even better.
She does like the Atlanta Falcons. You are correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So super cool for me.
Well, it's Justin. You got the little ones growing, and you're all settled in. School has started.
No, we don't start for another 2 weeks, but
that's wild.
Oh, okay.
2 weeks.
That's crazy.
We don't start till September 1st, and we just have a 3-day week. And we don't have school on Fridays, which is nice, but we have a football game up in Coeur d'Alene on Friday, so I got to drive about 9 hours north up to Coeur d'Alene, so that's going to be a good time.
Nice. Well, if you are new to our channel, man, please subscribe, hit that like button, file on in, and we're going to jump right into some football news. Let's do it.
What's going on?
What do you have for us, gentlemen?
Oh, so I'm going to just jump in here because the most important news of the week dropped today. Bo Nix, start of the Denver Broncos, baby. Let's go. First time since 1983 that the Broncos have named a rookie as their starting quarterback. The last rookie to be named starting quarterback for the Denver Broncos? Anyone?
John Elway.
John Elway, baby.
Okay.
Yeah. So, big news over in Broncos country. Pretty excited about that. A couple of things that's been going on. Jamar Chase is holding out. CeeDee Lamb is having contract issues. The Jamar Chase holdout is he wants $160 million over 4 years with 120 of it guaranteed. So that'd make him a $40 million a year wide receiver. Which is crazy. Just crazy that he's ready to do that. Ready to just hold it out. It sounds like Jerry Jones is he feels positive about their talks with CeeDee. They offered him a contract that was like $33 million a year, but man, I don't know. The closer we get to the season, the more that these wide receivers holding out, the more it's just crazy to me that you get this close and be like, yeah, nah, I'm good. Crazy.
Yeah, that's weird. It feels like every single first round pick, there's something wrong with them. So it's like Tyreek felt like, oh yeah, I drafted Tyreek first overall, but then Chance can elaborate on that. It just feels like everything in the first round is getting hurt. So.
Yeah, Tyreek Hill is in a wrist splint, a removable hand splint, so having some hand issues. Matt, do you have any more on that? Did you look into that hand issue at all?
I didn't, but the good news is it's removable, right? It's kind of like a boot. You see players all the time will put a boot on after a game, and then they're back the next week just fine. So where it's removable, it's not permanent. I think it's just precautionary. Nothing to worry about, in my opinion.
Yeah, a few other things. Drake May seems to have the inside track to start that Patriots team, which much to Justin's chagrin. Yeah.
I'm just not like I like Drake May, and I feel like I'm one of the very few people that like he had a deep ball to Javon Baker, I believe. It was in a bucket. It was a beautiful ball. Baker dropped it. But like he has so much upside. Like he does remind me a little bit of Josh Allen. And I'm just scared they're gonna ruin him. And like I just don't want to see good talent get wasted. We saw that kind of with Sam Darnold. But like an honest question, like if you had to pick an offense, like this offense is your fantasy football offense, would you rather have the Patriots or the Steelers?
Steelers, easy.
I go Steelers.
I just think they're both going to be bad, and I don't know. Like,
No, you have to. So you have to look at it from a fantasy value.
yeah,
I don't like Wilson back there. I'll take Fields back there
Mhm.
and let him run
Yeah.
around and make plays. From a fantasy value, both teams are going to not be very good, in my opinion. So we'll see.
Yeah, with that, thanks to Justin for leading into my other news. Jalen Warren pulled hamstring. Shot to the heart. Good if you're a Najee owner. It sounds like it's a pretty mild hamstring strain. So he is questionable for week 1, should be back, but not ideal for a running back. Running back and hamstrings, man, those things are
not good.
not good. They are tender things. And lastly, sounds like the Bengals players absolutely trashed AR-15 in their joint practice. He had a pick. They harassed him all practice. Got in trouble for taunting him. So you know how that goes. We love to put a lot of like spotlight on AR-5. But and I know that Matt is a huge AR-5 truther. Matt, what happens if you draft him that high and he just isn't that good?
Yeah, so I did do this in a draft just over the weekend, and I did get AR-5, and I picked him pretty high, right? I'm all in on him, but I was able to secure Kyler Murray at a very good value. So I was able to, right? So I'm gambling because if AR-5 pans out, I'm in really good shape. If he's fizzling, I still feel like I've got a very good second quarterback with Kyler Murray. I may have kind of left something else on the table in that Kyler Murray spot, but that's okay. I think I can navigate it from there. But I still am a big AR-5 guy. The Bengals is exactly what I would do when I would play him. He's still technically a rookie with right as far as experience and very limited. So I'm going to harass him as much as possible and make him make mistakes. It's up to Shane Steichen to make the offense as simple as possible for AR-5 and keep things minimal and read simple, because the kid's he's just a freak. He's built different. He's so big. He's so fast. He's got a cannon. He doesn't have a Peyton Manning mind or right that type of stuff. Keep it simple. I do want to bring up just a little bit for you both, you guys, as we're talking about news. I am very intrigued in that Steelers offense and I brought it up earlier, Wilson and Fields. In the last preseason game, Fields seemed to do a little bit better than Wilson, and I'm curious. I know Wilson's going to play. I read that today. He's going to play in this final preseason game. If you are the head coach of the Steelers, who's your starting quarterback and why? Justin, I'm going to start with you.
I mean, it's Fields. He just has the most upside to your team. I feel like he's going to add a little bit more oomph to your offense, like whatever that is. But I don't trust Arthur Smith. I feel like he's going to yank him on a chain a lot. He's going to put Russell out there for 4 games. He's going to put Fields out there for 2 games. And it's just going to go back and forth. But I would just let Justin Fields just run around and make some plays. Try to hand the ball off a ton. Play a lot of 2 tight end sets with Washington and Freiermuth with Fields. And just power run a lot of stuff, even if people know what we're doing. We're going to play really good defense and we're going to run the ball. I just think they're going to be real tricky and try to be cute with stuff, and it's just not going to work out. And I think they're going to start Russ.
Chance?
Yeah, I mean, you look at Justin Fields last year, and just as a quarterback, like he finished QB 18 in half-point PPR, but that rushing upside is there. He wasn't incompetent as the Bears quarterback. Like as a Broncos fan, when I looked over Justin Fields and what I had in Russell Wilson last year, I know some of his numbers were better than you thought they were. And I think that he would be okay, but I think it's 6s. And with that, to me, the explosiveness of Justin Fields puts him over the top for me. As I would start him. And when he inevitably gets hurt, because he does, now you have Russell Wilson to go in, manage a few games, win some close games with a good defense, because you can trust Russell in some of those spots better than I think you can trust Fields while he learns.
Yeah, and you're not paying Wilson anything too. Like he's getting.
Now
paid
we are Broncos. They covered that
are.
check.
I
was just going to say that too.
I don't understand how it seems so parallel. Like Russell and Deshaun Watson, like their fall off is so big. And like I know Deshaun Watson, the jury's still out, all that stuff, but like they were both top 5 quarterbacks. Like it feels like yesterday.
Not that long ago, yeah.
Like Deshaun Watson was running around, Russell Wilson was like cooking, let Russ cook, and like they both looked really bad last year. Like Deshaun Watson got outplayed by a 39-year-old Joe Flacco. Like it's just crazy to me.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. I'll lead off with this before we get into the meat and potatoes of our show today. But the Steelers are going to be interesting one to watch this year. They needed a quarterback. They made a pretty good deal. Sorry, Chance. And they went and got Wilson. Fields fell into him for a 4th rounder, right? They were trying to figure out what to get for Fields. Fields picks the Steelers. Tomlin's in a very tough spot this year. If they don't turn around and do something halfway decent, I really think Tomlin's gone after this year. I just think it's time. It's kind of messy over there right now, and they're trying to find their way. They got some decent talent around them. Russell Wilson ain't it. It wouldn't surprise me if they move on from Russell Wilson after this year, but we'll see what happens.
Lineberry, you better be careful. You better be careful, Lineberry, because what's going to happen is if this happens and it's Russell Wilson's fault, right? A Bronco and a former Bears quarterback, they're going to stink in Pittsburgh. Mike Tomlin's going to get the boot, and you know where he's going to go? To the Saints, because they're going to get rid of Dennis Allen, and the Saints are going to whoop the Falcons' butt for the next 10 years, because Mike Tomlin is one of the best coaches.
Really good, yeah.
I'd
love to see him with the Cowboys. Like that would be fun. Like that makes a ton of sense.
He's just so good as a coach. It's unreal.
He's very good as a coach. He's very good coach.
We'll keep an eye on it, see what happens, but let's jump right into our show. What this is about, tight end rankings. Here we go. So just as we talked before, us 3 guys, yes, they're the best. They're my favorite position.
I'm the king of tight ends. Love it.
Nice.
So
we sat down, went through our rankings, and I'm going to pull it up here. So understand how this goes. We got 1 through 15. If you'll notice above the ranks, these are the rounds where you can get these guys currently in the current ADP. So keep that in mind as we roll through. And we're just going to kind of start from the bottom and work our way up to where we're going to go. But so we kind of started off with Taysom Hill. Chance, you like Taysom Hill in the 15th spot. What's your thoughts on him this year?
I had Taysom Hill all the way up to 12. I really like, especially as the preseason's gone on, more and more with what the Saints want to do with Taysom Hill is kind of showing up, and they're using him as a fullback, they're using him as a running back, they use him as a tight end, as a receiver. Like they're really just trying to get Taysom Hill all over the place. And Taysom Hill's one of those, like, we should just know better by now, right? Last year, he finished 10th overall. He finished 5 the year before that. In 2021, he was 13, so he was just outside the top 12. He finished 4 in 2020. Like, this guy just scores fantasy points. And every year we sleep on him, and every year the Saints find a way to utilize him more and more in all these crazy different ways. So, I don't know. I think he is an underrated tight end because everyone's so sick and tired of who he is that I think he's a steal. He's a steal as a tight end.
Yeah, I think he'd always been that tight end, but he could be that QB classification sometimes. And I think that's what made people mad, because if you didn't have him, you're a little bit upset you were playing somebody who did. But yeah, I did see that as well. Taysom Hill, at 15, a lot of times he's going undrafted in the 17th round, depending on how many rounds you guys go in your draft. But keep an eye on him. He's a sneaky backup tight end. I don't know if somebody want to start all the way through, but certainly usable. At 14, Hunter Henry. Yes, he is. He is.
He plays special teams too. Like he gets tackles too. So if you get points for tackles, he gets tackles too. He is the best pure football player in the NFL. And like as biased as an Idaho person as I am, he is like he can play any position on the football field. Like in high school, like he played every spot. Like he was our safety, played quarterback. He's our kicker. He was our punter. The dude is a freak.
Yeah, been doing it a long, long time. It's at 14, we went Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry's kind of that guy. I think we just mentioned it, right? So we're going to have a rookie quarterback there for the Patriots. It wouldn't surprise me if he is the major, at least a big part of that check down process, and you can get him at 17. Justin, you like Hunter Henry here at 14?
value wise. So like ideally, like you should try and get those top 7 guys, top 10 guys. But if you do punt on the tight end position, Hunter Henry's not a bad option. If you look at the Patriots wide receiver room, I believe Tyquan Thornton, if you guys remember that, he got drafted in the 2nd round, I think 2 years ago. Like he's running with the ones. Like I don't know who else is going to run with the ones. If it's going to be Pop Douglas, is it going to be Polk? Is it going to be Baker? They cut Juju. Like that wide receiver room is rough. So like all intents and purposes, like he should be the one. Granted, it is a bad offense, but there's not a lot of spots where you can get the number one option as a tight end.
Agreed. Moving on to 13, Mr. Schultz. Again, he's another 17-round guy. Sometimes goes undrafted. Chance, what are your thoughts on Schultz here at 13?
Yeah, I like Dalton Schultz. He was a little bit lower in my rankings, just because to me there's a lot of mouths to feed in that offense, and it's one of those things where when it comes to tight ends, my typical formula is I want tight ends that are going to soak up targets, right? So tight ends on target needy offenses where there's not a lot of other places to go with the ball. And Dalton Schultz, to me, again, if you've got your Stephon Diggs and your Tank Dell and your Nico Collins and Mixon's good out of the background and John Mechie could come around, they just have a bunch of dudes. And I think that Dalton Schultz is a really good tight end. To me, he makes me nervous because, yes, it's a high-scoring offense, but there are a lot of mouths to feed and a lot of explosive mouths to feed that the quarterback already has a great repertoire with. So he makes me a little nervous at 13.
Yeah, I think the good way to kind of march this out is look at the offense itself. So we know Taysom Hill is our gadget player. Henry's a number 1 on a bad offense. Schultz is probably the number maybe 3, 4, 3 pushing it, right, on a very good offense who may get more targets. So which means more time in the offensive sets. So
he feels
so
a
I
lot
agree.
Like Cole Kmet as well, like where
Yes.
they added some pieces, and like he was very good last year. Like Cole Kmet is gonna kind of feel like forgotten this year. I know Chance is like really pissed about that offensive adding because Cole Kmet has been doing really well, got paid really well, and is he gonna be the forgotten man in that offense? So.
Agreed. So moving on to number 12, Mr. Brock Bowers. I think we all 3 really like him. Unfortunately, we don't like the place. But Justin, you got your little trophy next to Brock Bowers. Tell us what you're thinking about Brock Bowers. What's your thoughts?
So Brock Bowers was a really hard prospect for me to come around to once he got drafted. Like during the draft process, I was pretty high on him. I think the only thing that kind of made me hesitant is he's small for all intents and purposes by tight end circumstances. He's only 6'3", but coming back to it, seeing how they're using him in camp and like late round tight end wise, I feel like rookie tight ends will be less scary after the Laporta thing, because he set the trend where tight ends can come in and contribute right away. It seems like they are going to use Bowers in the way that he needs to be used, as a fullback, as an inline tight end, as a slot. They haven't added any slots. I think Josh asked that question last week about Trey Tucker coming in and playing slot. This is where I think Bauer comes into place. I think him, Jacoby Myers, and Devontae Adams will be their 11 personnel. Again, it's a tight end, but Michael Myers will be the tight end in that situation. I think he is probably maybe one of the few tight ends in the whole league that will get jet sweeps. You just don't see it with tight ends. Like, why would you give a tight end a jet sweep? He is a violent runner. He doesn't go down on first contact. He always gets stuff after contact. He is George Kittle in that way, just a little smaller. I think he is a little bit shiftier. Again, if you punt tight end, I think he is a really good add late, especially in redrafts. But I like him a lot. I don't trust that Raiders offense a lot. Them adding Gardner Minshew instead of Aiden O'Connell, I was happier about when it came to the fantasy aspect of it. I feel like he'll add a little bit more.
Yeah, agreed. Chance, agree, disagree on Brock Bowers?
Yeah, I know he's such a stud. I just have a problem with Raiders draft picks. Like, I don't want that to sound like, hey, I'm a Broncos fan and I think that they are a bad drafters. And I think that Brock Bowers is a great prospect, but it's like the Raiders are bad at drafting first round guys. And they for the last 10 years, they draft a first round guy and he's a bust. And I don't think that's Brock Bowers. But when you already have Michael Mayer there, and he is a rookie tight end coming in, I just don't know if he can be Sam Laporta from last year with that offense, with who's there. So he makes me nervous. I'll probably end up with him in a couple of leagues because I loved him in college, man. He is so much fun to watch. He's such a great tight end. His landing spot was so tough for me.
Yeah. They certainly took best available in that draft. My tight, when I look at Bowers, because he's such an athletic kid, look at him, what he did just going into Georgia as a freshman. He tore it up. I think he can do the same thing in the NFL. His ceiling for this year is probably no higher than tight end 10, is kind of where I'm leaning. But you can certainly get him in the 8th round, relatively cheap as a guy and try to play it that way. So Goddard comes in and go ahead.
Sorry. A lot of people in camp have said like he's just a mismatch. Like they don't know don't know what player to match him up with because he's just too physically dominant for DBs and he's way too quick for linebackers. So that's what they've said in camp is like when they've done their joint practices, even their one-on-ones, there's like we just can't cover him because he excels so much in people's weaknesses.
Yeah. Coming in at number 11, and you get him in the 10th round, is Dallas Goedert, which I kind of like. This, he's sneaky, but it's going to be the same long lines of Schultz. But Chance, thoughts on Goddard here at 11?
Yeah, I really think that like Dallas Goedert is to me in that offense where like I know that what I said about Dalton Schultz and having a plethora of options, but the Eagles to me, they're again an offense that always gets into the red zone. And I think that when you're an offense that can live in the red zone so much, you have more opportunity to really just pass to some of those tight ends and get more of those red zone targets for tight ends. I think Dallas Goedert, ever since the great tight end whisperer, who is Zach Ertz, right? Zach Ertz is tight end whispered for 2 people on this list and will tight end whisper for Ben Sinnott this year. Once he was out of there, like he taught Dallas Goedert how to be a great red zone threat. And even with AJ Brown and Devonta Smith there, Dallas Goedert just soaks up those red zone opportunities. It makes me a little nervous with Saquon there. They just have so many big-bodied, physical red zone targets between Hurts, between Barkley, between AJ Brown and Dallas Goedert. I think he's appropriately ranked for us here at 11. Like if you can get him in round 10, I think he has upside galore, touchdown upside. He could easily be a top 5 tight end.
Yeah, and last year was the least amount of yards in really since 2020, but he just shy of 600 yards, 3 touchdowns. But he did have his second best year of targets, 83. And I do think they're going to throw the ball a little bit more in this offense. They're going to spread it around. Devontae Smith, we talked about him earlier. I really love Devontae Smith, but Goddard's going to get his. Kellen Moore also likes throwing to the tight end. Just go back and take a peek in college and what he's coaching. I agree with you, Chance. Moving on to David Njoku. So we're in our top 10 now, and you pick him up on the 7th round. This one's a hit and miss. I guess he is tearing it up in camp. He looks good. I think we've always just kind of waited for David Njoku, and maybe that's what we're doing here. But Justin, give us your thoughts on 10.
You got to give this one a chance because I feel like Chance is the Browns guy, and I just poo-poo on the Browns all the time.
Okay, Chance, you go.
Oh, man. Okay, cool. So David Njoku, my only fear with David Njoku is if you look at last year, right, when he started to really blow up and he was so good through the fantasy playoffs. Like he won a lot of people fantasy championships with where he was at. Now, the problem with that is that he started to really show off after Joe Flacco came in. And when Joe Flacco was a quarterback, his targets increased, his yards increased. With Deshaun Watson, not so much. So I'm really interested to see what that dynamic is between David Njoku and Deshaun Watson. Since that's where we're going to start the season off. But Yeah, I think he could be an absolute stud. He's just so physically gifted. Like he just looks like a different human being out there. And it's crazy to think the Browns have multiple of those kinds of human beings. Myles Garrett, David, that team's
they're like they're all like Cam Newtons of their position, like just
Yeah, I really think David Njoku broke out last year, and he is a staple in that offense. I'm waiting to see what that usage looks like again with Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, so just for some context here, so he had 123 targets with 6 touchdowns. He caught 81 of those. His previous high was 88, which was his second year. So a lot of that, a lot more volume, a lot more targets, a lot more catches. So it's going to be interesting. But again, he sounds like he's tearing it up in camp. I'm probably fading him in round 7. To be honest, I'd probably kick back and try to get Goddard or Bowers, in my opinion. But that's just me. Moving on to Evan Ingram at 9, who had a phenomenal year last year. We've got him locked in the 9th spot, and you can pick him up in the 6th round. Justin, it's your turn with Evan Ingram.
No. Justin passed off David Njoku to me, and I was sitting here waiting for Evan Ingram. I was so thrilled. And Library's got it. Here you go. He just knows I love me a good tight end.
Yeah.
So
he's gonna talk about the rest of the 9 guys.
Evan Ingram, okay, where we're at 9 is egregious to me. This guy was the tight end 2 last year. The tight end 2. He led all tight ends in targets with 143 targets. Had 114 receptions. Like the dude absolutely balled out last year. And to me, I understand that Brian Thomas, that they added Gabe Davis, like they've added a few guys, but I just think that rapport that we saw last year between Trevor Lawrence and Evan Ingram, it felt legit. It looked legit. And I think that as that team grows and I think gets better, adds more weapons, I don't expect Trevor Lawrence to look away from Evan Ingram a whole lot less. I get that he might have more downfield opportunities, but 143 targets to me is awesome. And even if he loses 10% of those to Brian Thomas, or somebody else in that offense, he's still going to be a highly targeted weapon in an offense that I think is going to be just as good as it was last year, if not better.
Yeah. The only thing with Evan Ingram that scares me a little bit is he doesn't score touchdowns, and like he's not the big play guy that he should be. Like he is in the mold of Brock Bowers, where he came out as like a slot tight end, he's never in line. Like the 143 targets just seems like outlier. Like this will never happen again. He doesn't score touchdowns. Again, I don't know who's going to take that role from him because Christian Kirk is there, which should be his role. Brian Thomas and Gabe Davis are field stretchers, so you wouldn't expect them to take the underneath stuff. Like his average yards per catch was 8 yards, so he was doing most of his work underneath.
Which was his lowest in career. That was his lowest in his career.
His longest catch was 34 yards. Like, I'm not a big lover of Evan Ingram this year. I just feel like this was an outlier year. But I mean, we'll see. Like that offense is going to be really great. We'll see how it goes. So.
Does it change your mind that the year before last he was tight end 6 with Trevor Lawrence? Like Trevor Lawrence's love for him is only growing, man. It's not. It can only go up.
I can answer that for you, Chance. Before I do that, hey, if you're just tuning in, subscribe, hit the like button because we have discussions like this all the time, and it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of banter, and we're trying to figure out the right information for you so you can win your fantasy leagues. So kind of circling back, I think Evan Ingram's ceiling was last year with the number of what you saw. Mm-hmm. And it has less to do with Ingram than it does with the other 8. Does that make sense? And what their ability is and what they're capable of doing. That's why it's pushed him down to 9 for me. And you can get him around 6. Look, I am not going to fault you if you want to take Evan Ingram in round 6. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I'm just going to try to get some of those other guys ahead of him beforehand. And if I can get Ferguson in round 7 instead of Ingram in round 6, I'll do that because I think he's got a little bit higher upside. That's just me.
Yep, I agree with that.
Well, so that's a great segue into Ferguson. Now, Ferguson finished tight end 9 last year. I know that because I had him last year. You're getting him in round 7. We've got him bumped up one more in the position 8. Justin, let me ask you, Ferguson, do you like him better this year or not? Are you okay with that 8 spot for us?
Yeah, he was in the best offense last year, and he should be the number 2 in there. They've talked up Tolbert a lot as a Justin Jefferson clone. He's the same size as Justin Jefferson. The Cowboys are going to have 2 of the best receivers in the league. I don't buy that. Jake Ferguson's a great red zone threat. He's a stud. Like, again, it's not huge, sexy plays, none of that. But he's just a really good tight end. Like, I'll take him in the 7th round and be pretty happy. That's basically where my tight end floor is. I would love to get any. I mean, I'm fine with Evan Ingram. Like, these first 9 guys, like, I'm pretty good with. But, like, ideally, the top 6, the top 7 is who I want. But, like, I'm good with 8, 9 there. Jake Ferguson was really good in that offense last year.
Yeah, Chance, you like Ferguson? Do you want any piece of him this year?
I mean, Ferguson to me is like the best of the milquetoast tight ends, and it kind of ends there. Like he's gonna be good because he is a really good red zone target on a really high-powered offense, and he has a really good rapport with Dak Prescott. But and I just would agree, if I draft Jake Ferguson, I'm never excited about it. I'm never like, whoa, nailed that pick. I'm like, meh. Yeah, I guess I'll have toast for breakfast. I guess that's what he feels like when you draft him. But the French have lived off of toast for breakfast for hundreds and hundreds of years. Okay, so it's totally doable.
That's fair. That's fair. Moving on to number 7 is Mr. George Kittle, and you can get him in the 5th round.
Yes.
Are you guys? So with the window kind of closed on the 49ers, in my opinion, and if it's not closed, it's very close. Are we still getting Kittle? Are we still? I mean, who has been phenomenal tight end over these last few years? Chance.
When you say the window closed, I want to know what window. The Super Bowl window, the Ayuk window,
the Super Bowl window.
I was like,
Matt!
Oh my gosh, Matt! How
Come
dare
on!
you?
The Bears aren't that good yet.
Yeah,
Chill
and
out.
Matt's like, well, the Bears drafted Caleb Williams. Everyone's Super Bowl window's real close to being
The Bears are the Chiefs forever now.
Oh my gosh! Listen, I think George Kittle is. I mean, George Kittle to me is a top 3 tight end in the league. Just if we're talking guys at their position, he blocks so well. He's super athletic. Like he's just a stud. His finishes. He finished 21 as a rookie, and then he finished tight end 3, tight end 2, tight end 20 the year he was hurt, tight end 4, tight end 3, tight end 5. Like he has been as consistent of a tight end since 2018 as Travis Kelce has been. And so I just don't see, especially with this Ayuk thing maybe up in the air, like I think him and Brock Purdy have a great rapport. I think he is essential to what Shanahan wants to do in that offense. And he's going to get the ball. He's the kind of tight end that makes me want to rip my shirt off and just scream from the rooftops when I draft him because he's that guy.
Very much so. Justin?
Yeah, George Kittle's a dog. He plays the game the right way. I mean, I don't know how he eats that well in that offense when they got so many dudes in that offense. But he's freaking good. He felt last year a little bit like DJ Moore because he had like that random 3-touchdown game.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if he's super boom or bust. He's always been super consistent, like Chance has said. Like I'm pretty happy with him if I get him.
The one thing that kind of surprised me with Kittle, and I agree with you guys, I do think the 49er window is closing. If it's not closed, I think the other teams are surpassing them. They're still a very good team. They're going to be a playoff team. But Kittle is so efficient. So he averages 15 yards. That's 15 yards last year, 15 yards a catch. He was targeted 90 times, and he caught 65 of them for over 1,000 yards. 6 of those were touchdowns. So it's fascinating. He's so efficient with those targets, and he's going to get more work. I agree with you guys. And a great spot at 7, and you can get him in the 5th round, which is cool. Mark Andrews, you gotta love Mark Andrews. He's probably the tight end 1 over with the Ravens. We have him at number 6. You got to pay a 4th rounder for him. But Chance, I know this is the guy you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, Mark Andrews is my tight end 1. Right? Of all the tight ends on our list, when I did my rankings, I just Mark Andrews is the man. And I think Mark Andrews suffers from the injury memory dip, right? Like it happens all the time. people get hurt in the middle of the year and they're having a great year, and then you kind of forget about them because you put them on IR or you drop them because it ends their season. Mark Andrews is the number one pass catcher in that Baltimore offense. Zay Flowers doesn't scare me. Rashad Bateman doesn't scare me. Even the rushing upside of Lamar Jackson doesn't scare me. I mean, you go back to 2019, Mark Andrews' sophomore season, he had 10 touchdowns, then 7 in 2020, then 9 in 2021, 5 in 2022, 6 touchdowns in 2023. And he only played 10 games last year and still finished as the tight end 13. He just has such immense upside. And I've been holding on to this nugget for when we get into our top end guys. But I think starting George Kittle from George Kittle up, to me, is where it is important to focus on some of these higher end tight ends. Just last year on fantasy points, right? The number one scoring fantasy point tight end last year was Sam Laporta. He scored 100 more fantasy points than the number 12 tight end. So when you think about the difference between these top end guys, like 100 points difference in fantasy between the 1 and the 12, and it's not like 11, 10, 9, and 8 were, had that many more points than the tight end 12 last year. So you're looking at really like this really big difference in the number of points scored by your tight ends. Once you get into tight end 7, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, these top end guys, they're top end by a lot. And Mark Andrews just represents the ultimate upside for me if he can return to form. He hasn't aged out yet. He's great friends with Lamar Jackson, and his biggest threat to me is what Lineberry said. It might be the other tight end in that room, Isaiah Likely.
Yep.
I think it's fair too, because Likely is one of those guys who just needs an opportunity, and we saw that last year. I would say, and you can do this or not, some people will never do this, but if you draft Mark Andrews and at the very end of your draft you pick up Likely, your tight end set, right? Other than the bye week, if Mark Andrews, who is injured right now, he had the car accident thing, but it sounds think he's going to be fine. But Likely has a ton of opportunity if Andrews goes down again. There's always that little injury risk. Likely will be a dog. Justin, agree or disagree with that, or fade?
So with the nugget with Isaiah Likely, so he got to start the last 6 games. He finished as a top 5 tight end 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's crazy to me. Like, they're not huge points or anything. Like, it's 12, 13, 14. Mind you, this is standard. But, I mean, in PPR, he's finished with 19, 18, 8, 18, 11, 8.
Yeah.
Like, they feature the tight end in this offense. Like, whether it's Mark Andrews or Isaiah Likely, like, there's probably 4 tight ends that I'm targeting in all my drafts. And, like, I don't care necessarily which one it is because I think they're all huge values this year. And it's that 4th, 5th round, that change that's where you need to go. I think Laporta's priced a little high, and I think Kelsey's priced a little high. And I think the other 4 that we'll talk about are priced. And Mark Andrews is included in this group. I'm ecstatic if I walk away with one of these 4 tight ends. That's who I want.
And that is a great segue. Go ahead, Chance.
I was going to hit this segue hard for you. As the oldest and most attractive guy on this podcast, would you talk about the oldest, most attractive tight end we have ranked number 5 now?
Sure.
That is perfect. That's fantastic segue into number 5, Mr. Kelsey.
I knew you'd like that since we've been chatting all these tight ends up. I know you want your boy Travis.
No, I do. I did a thing earlier, tight end or players to avoid, and number 5, Travis Kelsey is on my list. You have to get him to spend a second round. Last year he was the least productive he's been in a long time. 122 or 121 targets, 93 catches, 984 yards, and only 5 TDs. Now we have been spoiled by Travis Kelsey for a long time in the tight end world, and that's okay. But to spend a second rounder on Travis Kelsey is a little bit rich for me. However, if he were to fall, he's still a very, very, very good tight end. I just don't want to spend that premium on him in that second round. So although we have him ranked at 5, understand I'm more apt to fade him and get a Andrews, a Kittle, a Ferguson if he's spent off in the second round. So that's my thoughts on Kelce. I'm fading him. That offense still should be good, but they're trying to get more weapons around him. Chance, agree or disagree with Kelce?
I know that the age cliff is coming for Travis Kelce. I also know he's the only reason Patrick Mahomes is good. Okay, so the only reason Patrick Mahomes is good.
No,
is Travis
get that
Kelce.
slander out of here.
So
Get your slander out of here.
So it's just like it's the Belichick Tom Brady question. Is it Travis Kelce or is it Patrick Mahomes? I don't know. And I think Patrick Mahomes, if he wants to stay relevant, is gonna have to pass the ball to Travis Kelce. Did you guys see the behind the back pass by Patrick Mahomes?
So stupid.
Did you hear what he said about it after the game?
He said Travis ran the wrong route.
And he's like, "Oh yeah, I kind of forgot I did that." You did not forgot you did that. You silly Kermit Muppet.
He goated.
That's funny. Moving on to these top 4 guys. In my opinion, any of these 4 could be the tight end 1. And they're all close, and we have them ranked. We do have Justin's guy, Kyle Pitts, coming at number 4, which you can get a very good value in round 5. Justin, tell us a little bit about Kyle. Your guy, Kyle, what do you know? Why do you like him? So on and so forth.
With just following all my training camp stuff, like Matt and Chance do with their team, like one thing that Kirk Cousins has harped about Kyle Pitts and like holding him accountable and like having a great quarterback and one that's been in the league forever, like he's like, stop catching the ball with your body. Like that's not good enough. And like even after he makes like good catches, he's just like, nope, you caught it with your body. Like that's not good enough. And like that's a huge thing. Like he is a 6'6". I think his wingspan is 83 inches. Like he is a huge person. Like you guys have to understand that. Like he's fast and he's huge. And like I think Kirk Cousins holding him to a higher standard is gonna push him above. Like you guys all remember how he was with Matt Ryan. He was 1,000-yard tight end. Again, he only had 4 touchdowns. But like I think Kirk Cousins is gonna make a difference not only on the field, but him as a player, like his work ethic, all that stuff, I think is just gonna be impacted by Kirk Cousins doing that. And like today in their real scrimmage, he had like a 60-yard touchdown from Kirk Cousins. Like he's been playing better. He looks better off the knee. He can finally turn left. He could not cut off his leg last year. If you watched any of his routes last year, it looked like he was jogging every single route. It was super infuriating because he has all the talent in the world. So if it's not this year, I don't know if it'll ever be a year. That's the biggest thing. Like this is the make or break year. Like I've stepped on this bear trap every year of drafting Kyle Pitts, and like it's either got to be this year or like he's done because he has all the ways to succeed. He has a new OC, he has a new quarterback, all the weapons of the world. They can't single out one guy in that offense because there's so many guys. So I just think he'll have a good year. Like he's one of the 4 tight ends that I want.
Yeah, you better hope so because you're gonna run out of limbs if those bear traps keep going off.
It's true.
Yeah, one of the things it was Kyle Pitts' inefficiencies, right? So 90 targets, only caught 53 of them. Some of that is because he had the disease, the Ritter, right? And that doesn't help. So I think bringing Cousins in is going to help him catch those catchable balls. And he still walked away with 667 yards and 3 touchdowns. This is an upgraded offense for sure. He has the ability to be a tight end 1, and you get him in the 5th round. So I certainly like him.
I want to hear Chances.
I know. I'll just say, just on top of that, like we know Arthur Smith struggled in that offense. You also no longer have Jonnu Smith, who accounted for 70 targets, 582 yards, and 3 touchdowns with the Falcons. So, like, you know, you are losing another, to me, explosive playmaker at the tight end position as well. So those vacated targets, those vacated yards that went to that tight end position, if you add those to Kyle Pitts' numbers, man, you are looking at a tight end 1. So I will give you that. I mean, yeah, I'm not going to – it's like the first time you've brought up a legitimate reason for why your guys should be good other than don't you know who they are? Like, I love the Kirk Cousins. I love the Kirk Cousins bump that he's going to get. Like, I love who Kirk Cousins is. I love how he is as a teammate. I love to hear he's coaching up Kyle Pitts.
Oh, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, I think everyone in the fantasy football industry is, a rising tide raises all ships, right? And Kirk Cousins is that tide for sure. And we really think the offense for Atlanta is going to be much, much better because they certainly got dudes. They just needed somebody to captain that ship. So
For sure.
moving on to number 3, which is my guy, Trey McBride. You get him in the 4th round. The other day, I did a stack. I ended up getting Kyler Murray and Trey McBride. I really do feel, and I've got the trophy by him, I really do feel like this kid could be tight end 1. It may not be this year, but certainly coming. He had 106 targets for 825 yards, only 3 touchdowns. He is going to eat over the middle. They bring in Marvin Harrison Jr., who's going to command double teams. He's going to get equally amount of targets, if not a little bit more. I know they have some of those other players in there that are doing well too. But I just really feel like, man, this kid is a playmaker and could be that tight end 1. Agree or disagree? Chance.
I totally agree.
I listen. We've had this conversation already on this top 12 tight end rankings. Trey McBride was mentored by the tight end GOAT, Zach Ertz. Right? And so, like,
Yes.
like Zach Ertz was in Philadelphia when Dallas Goedert got there. And he was a stud and blocked out Dallas Goedert and then moved on. And he was a stud in Arizona before he moved on. And then Trey McBride, I just think Trey McBride, the reason he's high for me in a ranking goes back to that he is a playmaker on a high volume offense that doesn't seem to have a lot of targets, right? Like 100% Trey McBride should be the second leading receiver on that team behind Marvin Harrison Jr. And that's why I have Dalton Kincaid ranked so high. That's why I have Mark Andrews ranked so high. And even like Evan, like for me, that carries a lot of weight. And so Trey McBride is that. He is one of the top 2 target leaders on that team, in my opinion, and should thrive.
Yep.
Well said. Well said. Thank you, Chance, for backing me up on that one. So we got our last 2 guys. We have Kincaid and we have Laporta. So I'm going to let one of you guys pick who they want. Justin, I'm going to give you the option 1. Do you want to talk about your boy Kincaid, or would you like to talk about Laporta?
I'll talk a lot about Laporta because I want to hear what Chance has to say.
Okay. So we have Kincaid, who is our second. I think we're all very, very high on Kincaid. I think there's a lot of arguments where he could be, again, tight end 1, and you get him in the 5th round. And, man, what a great opportunity to possibly stack him. We never force a stack on the show. That's not what I'm saying. Let it come organically. But we all are big on Kincaid in that Buffalo offense. Chance, I'm going to let you have it.
Okay, so I just have a few numbers that I think are important when you consider Dalton Kincaid for this year, okay? One of them is the 160 targets vacated from Stephon Diggs, and then the 81 targets vacated from Gabe Davis. That's 241 targets vacated in that offense that they need to fill. And I think Keon Coleman is super fun. I think that they might pass the ball around a bit more. But to me, the number 1 beneficiary of all those targets is going to be Dalton Kincaid. And I think it's not hard for either of us, for any of us, to look at what he did as a rookie last year, right? Like he was a rookie last year. Yeah. He still finished top 12 for tight ends, 91 targets, 673 yards. He only had 2 touchdowns, which is crazy to me that he only had 2 touchdowns. I just think he's going to be in a scoring position more. I think all 3 of us have zero problem seeing him finishing as a tight end 1. Like you don't even have to squint to see it. It's so obvious that he has such a clear path to be tight end 1 on the year. So that's my biggest reason why I love drafting Kincaid. I think in round 5, if you can go 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, and then happen to get Kincaid in the 5th round, oh my gosh, I would salivate to that team.
Yeah, but agreed. I do want to touch about Keon Coleman. I really am a fan of his. I really, really, really like him. All I'm saying is don't overhype him. He's still a rookie. He's making some great plays in training camp. But you still have Shakir there. You've got Kincaid there. They're going to pass the ball around a little bit. I don't think they have there's nobody on the team that's a Stephon Diggs that says, I need all this. Give this to me. I must be demand. It's going to get spread out evenly, and he's going to find his guys he's comfortable with. Give a rookie wide receiver there a little bit of grace, right? Don't draft him as your number 1 receiver. get Kincaid as your number one tight end instead out of this offense. So
Um,
moving to Laporta. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to agree with you. I mean, like, I think honestly, anywhere between 80 and 100 targets for Keon Coleman. Like, I know that's a 20 target difference, but that seems like a reasonable target number for him as a rookie, as a deep threat. I mean, even if he's a big slot, which he was in college, right? That still is, that's, if he takes 100 targets, no problem. That's still 140 targets that need to go around that are vacated. So 100% take Kincaid, who already has 1 year with Josh Allen and in that offense.
Yep, agreed. So finally, moving on to Laporta. Laporta, I think we all were pretty high on Laporta last year. I don't know that, being fully transparent, we thought he was going to be tight end number one. I mean, that offense for Detroit was crazy. You have to understand, Gibbs had 10 touchdowns. Laporta had 10 touchdowns. So that offense was just flowing. He comes around with being the tight end one, and now you're going to pay premium for him. So he is our tight end one too, but just understand you have to get him in the second round. So Justin, with that in mind, are you comfortable with Laporta getting him at 2?
So I want to make this perfectly clear. Like, this is not an indictment on Sam Laporta, but I just don't have any shares of it. Like, there's just no way that I can take him in the second round. I just don't take tight ends that high. Maybe Chance or Matt could look up ADP, like who's going around him, so we can kind of have that discussion. But when I like started to do like that research and like at the very end of the season, like I had no idea he was the tight end one. It just didn't make any sense to me. Like, I think the biggest thing is the touchdowns, the 10 touchdowns. Is he going to be a consistent 10 touchdown guy? Could he be a Mike Evans where he has that many touchdowns every year? He had a 2 touchdown game and a 3 touchdown game, so that's half of his stuff. But I think Chance said it on the pod like a couple weeks ago, and it just got me thinking a lot. Where I was super high on the Falcons, and how are they going to supply all these ones in an offense? And I get Detroit's offense is really good, but let's keep in mind they have Amon-Ra, who is going to be a wide receiver one. Like, you can almost take that to the bank now. They have David Montgomery, who was a running back, who was an RB1. You have Jahmyr Gibbs, who's in his second year. He should explode. They should lean on the run game. And all reports coming out, I saw my Jameson Williams hype today where he absolutely dusted a corner. I was like, oh, that was a disgusting route. I feel like if Detroit wants to take the next level to play in that Super Bowl, where they lost to the 49ers in the NFC Championship game, they need Jameson Williams to be a dude. And maybe that takes away from Laporta a little bit. Maybe that takes away his touchdown, because Jameson Williams is that touchdown guy. And he was a stud coming out of Alabama. He was a stud at Ohio State. Again, I don't know if he can replicate that. I think Matt said it, where there's these 6 or 7 guys it was Chance. So there's 6 or 7 guys that can be really close together. I don't feel like there's going to be a 100-point difference between him and Andrews, him and Kincaid, him and McBride, and I can get them 2 rounds later, 3 rounds later. I'm going to take that by instead of Laporta. Again, touchdowns are hard. They're not a super sticky stat. Like, it comes with ebbs and flows. Is Jared Goff going to throw a career high again? I don't know. I feel like this team is built to rely on the run game, so that's my hesitancy taking him in the second round.
And just for context, going around him, he's 26 in full PPR. You get London and Devon Achane, 24 and 25. Mahomes, Jacobs, Nico Collins at 27, 28, and 29. So just knowing where those guys are, and you can, again, I can't emphasize enough that any of these 4 guys in this top 4 could be tight end one. So you're kind of trying to figure out what you need in the moment. It's like, you know what, maybe I do want Laporta. I just think it's a little bit high, and that's fine if you want to pay second round price. That's fine. It's probably not what we're doing on this channel. As much as we love him, and he still could be tight end one because we like the value of other places better. So, Chance, anything to add to Mr. Laporta?
No, I mean, I think Sam Laporta is an ideal best ball pick, right? Like, if you're still doing best ball drafts and you're still going that route, like, I love Laporta as a best ball pick, even in round 2. I mean, I think he could make the difference. But I disagree with Lineberry, and that goes back to my tight end theory, right? Like there's a lot of mouths to feed in Detroit, and I'm glad that last year Laporta shoveled in those points. It's hard to think he'll do it again.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll leave you with this one last thing. We did not draft Laporta in the second round last year. He ended up tight end 1. He was probably, I can't remember, maybe around 6, 7, something like that. He was down there a little ways, and we had picked him up and got our money's worth, right? It was an insane value. So if you had him, a lot of people won a lot of leagues because of that. So, well, gentlemen, let's move on to the next. And it's been awesome. We are just about an hour into it. It's been awesome. Again, if you have just tuned in or you're getting to the show or you're watching this later, leave a comment. We want this to be interactive. Let us know who you're drafting at tight end. Who do you like? Who's your big swing? Are you reaching for Laporta? Are you going to wait for somebody else? Is there somebody that we don't have listed that we're missing? We want to know about it. We'd love to talk about it. So, and again, subscribe, hit that like button, and eventually I'll get my voice back so I can stop screaming at football practice. But anything else, gentlemen? Let's do final thoughts. Chance, we'll start with you this time.
No, I just want to echo what Matt said about Sam Laporta at the end. Like this crazy stat that I heard this last week that like almost a quarter of all tight ends, and this is since 2013. This is old stuff. A quarter of all tight ends that finish in the top 12 were not drafted in the top 12. So you got to figure, like, you're looking at 4 or 5 guys that might end up in the top 12 that we didn't talk about today, because tight end is such a weird position. And I'm really excited. I want to do a little short on sleeper or dumpster tight ends, right? Tight ends that have value that you can pick up off the waiver wire, guys that are on good offenses or in new locations. I just think it's important, but make sure you're drafting your tight ends that have high floors. That's all you want. Get you a guy that'll score you some points every week. That's the only thing I want from my tight end. Score me 5 points. Score me 7 points.
Yeah, that's true.
Justin?
So to go off Chance's dumpster tight ends, like this is my dumpster tight end, and it's Colby Parkinson. Like if you're gonna punt tight end till the 17th round, I think he's the guy to pick. He got a big contract, which was super weird, coming over from Seattle. So he was a 5-star. He was a 5-star guy that went to Stanford, got drafted really late, played 4 years at Seattle. Didn't really do much. He's only ever had 25 catches, but Sean McVay seemed to like him to give him $22 million over 3 years, which is nuts. He hasn't done anything. So Taylor Higbee got absolutely killed. I think he was in their playoff game or their last game. Absolutely destroyed his knee. I don't know if he comes back this year. So they used Taylor Higbee quite a bit with the Rams, and I think he can be sneaky. Do I think he's going to be top 12? No, I don't. But I think he could be top 15. I think he will be a serviceable tight end that can get you those 6 points. So just a guy that you guys could look out for.
Yeah, Stafford has historically liked his tight ends. That's 100% true. The one guy I'll give you, don't draft him. Just keep a very close eye on him. Put him on your like list. Put him on your whatever checklist that you want to follow through the season. And we saw a couple of good things out of him. And what I've seen, I liked it. But is Ben Sinnott.
Let's
Keep an eye on him. Keep an eye on him. I'm
Yeah.
telling you guys, he's going to come around, and that rookie tight end's going to lean on his rookie quarterback, or vice versa.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind. So
Halfway through the year, when Zach Ertz moves on, Ben Sinnott's
Yeah,
going
absolutely.
to break out. It's just
because, Ertz is going to teach him up, right? He's going to coach him up. So, all right, gentlemen, it is time. We are 1 hour in. Thank you guys for joining us again. Hit that like button, subscribe, leave a comment. We just like hanging with you. We want nothing more than you to win your fantasy football leagues. That's why we're here, and we just love talking ball. With that being said, we are out of here. Have a great night, everybody, and we'll see you very, very soon. Football season is here.
Yeah.
best